My name is Ernest Lamoth. I'm a reporter for the Southland Journal.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Jackson, running for Congress from the 1st Congressional District in the state of Illinois.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you very much for taking some of your time today. Can you talk to us a little bit just about your overall career?
Sure. I'm Jonathan Jackson, born and raised in Chicago. I went to Northwestern University for business school. I went to North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro. Born and raised in Chicago. I came out of the University of North Carolina, very much interested in financial institutions. Was a runner on Wall Street with the New York Stock Exchange on firm. Then I moved to Los Angeles to work in high yield distressed debt for Drexel Burnham Lambert. Came back to Chicago to go to Northwestern. Ended up working at the Chicago Board of Trade for a while, and then in residential real estate. From there, I started buying properties and became more entrepreneurial, making investments in retail and distribution and wireless companies. That's been my career path. I've served as a volunteer at the Rainbow Push Coalition as the national spokesperson. I've taken many trips, both domestically and abroad with my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. I've had to lead delegations to countries in Africa, Central America, the Middle East, both ecumenical peace missions, seeking to return American hostages that were in Syria, that were in Iraq, tried to broker peace with my father in Libya and so many other places. I was arrested when I was in college for a Free South Africa demonstration. At that point, that was a very, if you will, embarrassing moment for me. I'm like, Dad, I don't want to have a police record. I am trying to go corporate and other things. But he says, you got to take a stand on this Free South Africa. And I didn't know much about the name at that time of President Nelson Mandela. And years later, to be with President Mandela when he was released from prison, I understood the value in making the courageous decision. It wasn't popular. It was against traditional policy. The United States had called Mr. Mandela a terrorist, but Mandela didn't change, US policy changed. So it was a very instrumental lesson for me in leadership. Leadership molds opinion. They don't have to follow opinion polls. You have to do what's right. And that's the short history.
And then can you talk a little bit about why you decided that you wanted to run?
Sure. I feel like all of my experiences have prepared me for this seat. It had not been on my mind previously. January 3rd, it was a shock to me that Congressman Bobby Rush, I affectionately grew up with him my entire life, when he came to our house and sought safety for my father to take him to the police department after Fred Hampton was killed. And I thought he would spend the rest of his time, certainly he could, being a congressman for the 1st Congressional District. January 3rd, the announcement was made. My children are out of the house, they're in college, and a bit of a transition in my life. And so the timing, the opportunity, I never wanted to run for office while my children were in school. I just thought that was too much of a trade-off for me. I enjoyed my work with my father at the Rainbow Push Coalition, but it seems like the more I thought about this race and this opportunity to serve in the Congress, I'm very much aware that there have been 10,427 people to be in the Congress, 162 African Americans, 6 of those are delegates not having the right to vote. We've served less than 1% in that August body to make law that would, in fact, help our living. And so I thought I could bring a very unique perspective, having been a business person, having been an activist, now to go into government. I've taught at the university level at Chicago State. I've taught at the community college level. And I think that these experiences on having been in business, having been at the university, having been in activism, that this would be the culminating cornerstone to be able to get on the floor. And I've worked with many congressional leaders. I'm going to have many of their supports that look forward to working with me in the Congress. Congressman Chuy Garcia, Ro Connor from California, Mrs. Maxine Waters, and others, is that I can hit the ground running. And in some ways, these are the worst of times. Our democracy, I believe, is in a very fragile position. I remember in 2000, Al Gore had 500,000 more votes than George Bush before they stopped the count in Florida. Something fishy went on in 2004 with John Kerry and how his votes were not fully counted in Ohio. Mrs. Hillary Clinton had 3 million more votes in 2016 than Donald Trump. And Donald Trump won by 70,000 votes roughly in 4 states in 2016. This time, President Joe Biden in 2020 had 7 million more votes than President Trump, and he won by 400,000 plus or minus votes within 6 states. 155 plus million votes have been cast, and the margin of victory is really 400,000. This is trading on a very thin margin. There are 5.2 million Americans that have been felony disenfranchised that have been excluded from the rolls. This election cycle, there are going to be record numbers of money going into Secretary of State races to determine who gets to count the vote. So all of my experiences politically and business-wise tells me I should be on that floor. The problems that we're going to have facing our city and our region in the Midwest and Chicago, I want to have something to say on that $1.2 trillion of funds that are going to be in the Build Back Better program so that we can monitor it and have oversight to make sure that we tie in the South Suburban Corridor. There's a long history of discrimination in transportation that's making it inaccessible for people to get into downtown, the central business district. More jobs need to come to that region. We have a magnificent, if you will, geography, and we've got the roadways, the railways, the waterways. Everything comes through this area, and this money properly spent in the Build Back Better for infrastructure could, if you will, modernize, if you will, revolutionize our geography. We're in an area, unfortunately, that is declining in population. 261,000 African Americans have moved out of the Chicagoland area in the first 2 decades of the new millennium. I believe people move for 2 reasons. One is safety and another is opportunity. So we have to confront those 2 issues. Why are we having so much gun violence? Why are there so few opportunities for people to take advantage of? That's where I want to be on the Congress, to bring all these experiences, all these relationships with congressional people so that we can get things done now.
And are there any other issues that you're very passionate that you want people to know about?
Sure. Gun violence is paramount. It's at the top. Chuck's Gun Shop in Riverdale has been one of the most egregious offenders of straw buyers of guns in the entire nation. We don't have life if we have this continued level of violence. It will continue to make us an incredible shrinking region. We have all the components, universities, cultural diversity, transportation, intermodal, rail and road, that we need to bring it all together and to stop the flow of guns in our neighborhood, bring some jobs back in here. Let us gear up and now think about our future. What's very key is our economy is transforming again. I am very heartened to see that Ford Motor Company has spent $11 billion of commitment to go into Tennessee for their electric vehicles. The automobile now is essentially a computer with 4 wheels. We've got the steel plant here. We've got the Ford Heights assembly plant. How did we miss that $11 billion investment? One of the great things that Chairman Bill Ford did going into Tennessee, he took a union company, Ford Motor Company, with the UAW to Tennessee. He's taken the union to the South. After COVID continues to recede, the global supply chain theory and business practice is going to be challenged and go away. The outsourcing is going to turn back to insourcing and onshoring. People want to bring jobs back. They don't want to see these supply chains and not have their parts. So we have to have a vision for the future. And that vision starts right now. We have to go out and encourage corporations to come here. We've got to see what they need. We have to make sure our schools and our education facilities are adequate and the best to bring people in. We have to make sure our infrastructure is adequate so it's world class. We need to have universal broadband. I can very well argue that broadband access is a civil rights issue. If another country has greater broadband speed and access and they have the deployment for 5G and we don't in the South Side and the South suburbs, it'll be easier to talk between New York and Dubai, New York and Johannesburg, New York and Shanghai than it would be from the South Shore, South Side, South suburbs to New York City. So we'll continue to have an additional flight and lose opportunity in distribution and 5G industries. 5G industries are going to create the fundamental bedrock for telemedicine, where you can now move high-speed imaging across the world to see the best scientists and doctors. So there's a revolution in medicine that's happening right now. So I want us to focus on the future, and that starts now. 10 years from now is 3,650 days. It's not that long.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to also go out to other neighboring districts in Indiana and Michigan and Wisconsin. We have to make the region come alive. So there's no time to be parochial and provincial. We've got to see beyond these little boundaries of the district and see the region. And we also have to have our voice from the first Congressional District to speak to the issues that are facing the nation and the world. The bombs that are going off in the Ukraine and the instability in Afghanistan and the Haitians that were turned around on our border and the people that were turned around on our southern hemisphere, we have to see the entire world. So I think all of my experiences, having met many of these people, having been with activists on the front lines in Mexico, in Texas, in Iraq, in other places, I have the credentials, I have the commitment, and I have the compassion. We're going to need to see a new era of compassionate leaders, understanding what people are going through, feel their pain, and address it.
And is there anything else you'd like to add that maybe I didn't ask?
Gun violence, gun violence, gun violence. People are feeling prisoners in their home. I believe that what makes our streets safe is when children have instruments, when children have coaches, when children have clubs and other things they can get into, and they have some adult supervision, when they have vocational opportunities. We have to bring these to our children and to our communities. I don't want to see an arms race where the civilians have more arms than the police. That does not safe for the police, that's not safe for the neighborhood. I want to de-escalate, bring down these illegal gun purchases. I want to see the police be respected. I am not for defund the police. I am for let's respect the police. And when we call the police, we don't want to get shot. So sometimes it's a matter of training for the police, and other times we should have some modernized screening where some persons like Jason Van Dyke in Chicago never should have been on the force. So I'd like to see, to me, when I think of policing, I think of public safety. And what equals public safety? Think about it, on the other side of education for schools. One side is we should make our children prepared for school, but a fundamental role for government is to help the people where they cannot help themselves.
Yeah.
After 2.5 year period of COVID, we're now going to have to make sure that the schools are ready to receive the children. The old model isn't going to necessarily hold just getting the children prepared for school. Now we have to make sure the schools are equipped with everything they need to care for the children. They're coming back socially, emotionally challenged. They've been out for 2 years. The person that was a junior 2 years ago had a Zoom graduation, was not able to get his trade school paperwork filled out if he didn't have a counselor. If he's a first-time generation going to college, he wasn't able to fill out paperwork for school. Now he's aged out of the system. We're going to have some unique and innovative programs to help these children. We have to fill in a generation. This generation has been economically badgered from 2000 of internet bubble to 2008 in mortgages to 2008 and 19 of COVID. So I do believe this is the greatest country on earth. I do believe our children are normal. This level of violence, we have to confront it and give these children alternatives.
Well, Jonathan, thank you very much for taking a little bit of your time today.
Thank you very much.